Okay, welcome to today's meeting. So today, like we said in our last class, we're talking about uh, characteristics of major liquidity, external and internal liquidity. So this is a 4-hour time frame structure range. Now, from what we stopped last class, so we're discussing some certain things about structure. So on this time frame, now from here, you understand that from here, market was bearish initially. Market was bearish initially, creating a lower low, a lower high, created a new lower low. Then this is supposed to be a lower high. Then it's supposed to create a lower low, a recent lower low here from here down. But it gave us what? A failed structure, which is what we call SMS. So it gave us a failed structure. So after a failed structure, you wait for confirmation. You wait for confirmation, which is what? Break of structure. So market now broke structure to the upside. Market broke structure to the upside as what? Break of what? Structure. BMS to the upside or break of structure to the upside. So after market broke structure to the upside from this very level, it creates a high. Now this is supposed to be a higher low, right? So since this is supposed to be a higher low, now we expected market to create a higher high. Now I will be dealing with inducement and other stuff. You understand it clearer. It created a high, which is our higher high. Our what? Our higher high. Which is what? Our higher high. So that means this area is our higher high. Now, since it created a higher high, this low that was pushing price up to create a new higher high. This low that was pushing price up to create a new higher high. This low, this very low, this low, it was pushing price to create a higher high, but it got to some certain level, our SC candle. So price could not break the SC candle. As price is coming back, since it failed to create a higher high. Note this. We will be explaining some certain things about all this. Since it failed to create a higher high, once price is coming back, you don't wait for market to come down to SC candle for you to enter. That's how market to move. So you don't wait for market to come back to this SC for you to enter. If you're entering at this level, you are making what? A mistake. There's a reason why, because anytime market creates a fail higher high, there is 90% possibility for market to create a lower low, to take that low that failed to create that higher high before forming a new structure high. So market now take this low as what? Liquidity. As liquidity. Note this high did not create, this low did not create any high. So if market break it, it's not a break of structure. We are still within this formal range. I don't know if you are getting what I'm saying. This high here is not outside of this range to make it a higher high. Then for this one to become a break of structure to the downside now, that is already only a failed high. It didn't create a re-high. It didn't cross this former high here. So it's a failed high. As market is coming back, that low is what? That low that creates a failed high will become liquidity, or will become what? Will become a trap leg. It will become a trap leg. So we won't look for entry at that trap leg any longer. So now when market was coming, market created what we call stop hunt, triple bottom, a stop hunt, triple bottom, triple bottom. This is what we call a stop hunt. So market created triple bottom, gave a little arrow tilt for this sell. Now when we're talking about liquidity, you will have the confidence to know that this sell will completely sell. That this sell will completely sell. You have that confidence. You will have it. Now, after that, market give us what? A complete sell from this area. It sold now. After taking out this low, on lower time frame, you will see somewhat confirmation as what? lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high, BMS, ROTO, then a buy. As you are buying, because we have already gotten a fade high, market will read both of them with ease because they are what people are thinking that market is not coming to that level, especially those support and resistance trader. So they are thinking that this is not double bottom, double top. That market will not come and read it again. That it will push price down. So market will come and read it with ease. With what ease? So after market read it, now that means this is now what characteristics of what a major liquidity. That is a major low. That means you are not expecting market now to take what a major low. You are not expecting market to break what a major low. You are not expecting market to break what a major low. That is the full understanding. This is what characteristics of what second characteristics of what major liquidity, which we what explain. Second characteristics of what a major liquidity, which what we explain. So after that, now market create what another higher low, another higher high. So after a higher high, market give us what a minor break of structure here. A minor break of structure. That means it's ready to what to give us what a corrective wave. A minor higher high, higher low. A higher high was created. Now it created what a lower low, lower high. It came back into what our former point of interest, the last mitigation area, which we would also talk about. So it came back, boom. From that, here you have your SC candle, your what SC candle that initiate this whole move after this what full consolidation. That is after this full what mitigation that happened here. So it gave us what a buy from this to create a new structure higher high. That means this is now what our third understanding of what this is now what the third what characteristics of what a major low, that is liquidity grab. It went inside to grab liquidity. Which liquidity did it grab here? It grabbed this internal liquidity. It grabbed this what internal liquidity. So that is the internal liquidity that market what grabbed. This is the internal liquidity that market grabbed. So after grabbing this internal liquidity, market created a higher high, another break of structure. So the major thing is you are always waiting to join. After market break this high, even if you did not care more about this sell, you are waiting for price to come here and buy. Now let's take, for example, your buy from here. Now forget about the stop loss being big or not. We are not talking about refinement and other stuff here yet. So now this is your stop loss. Quite big, but based on what we have learned so far, this is how you're supposed to what you're supposed to trade it. You're supposed to what take this entry based on internal liquidity graph. This is what you're supposed to what do based on what structure. This is only ideal structure, no liquidity, no wake up, nothing. Only what the major idea of what structure. Internal liquidity, external liquidity, major liquidity. So these are the major things that is very, very important to us. These are the major things that is very, very what important to us. These are the very important things that we need to what note. So if now, let's say, for example, after market break this high, now you note something. Market came back, created a new higher high. That is a break of structure to the upside. That is what a break of structure to the upside. Market still came back to what our SC candle, the last SC candle. There's no mitigation here. So this is our last what SC candle, which is what our point of interest, which we have learned so far. So this is where you're supposed to what join again. Your concern is about the buy to the next external liquidity till what it fails based on that time frame. Till what it fails. So this is how you follow structure completely. This is how you follow structure completely. This is how you follow structure completely. completely. So this is the normal idea of our internal liquidity. This is the normal idea of what? Our internal liquidity. This is the normal idea of what? Internal, external, and major liquidity. So this low here is what characterizes what? The major liquidity. Why this stop hunt is what? Our why this stop hunt that happen here is what? The second what characteristic of what? Our major liquidity. That is the normal idea of it. Now let's take for example. Okay. Now let's look at this. A downtrend, a downtrend move here. A downtrend move here. So after market broke structure here to the downside, telling us we are on downtrend. Created a lower low, a lower high. Where the lower high started from is from the what? Internal structure. Internal structure. We took one liquidity here that is outside of the structure and use the one that is what from this internal structure to continue the downside. Then created what? A lower low. Created what? A lower low. So after creating a lower low, internal structure, our SC candle also. Our what? SC candle also. Now it created a new lower low at around all this area. This is complex and what? Deep corrective wave mixed together here. It first creates a lower high from the internal structure range. It creates a it creates a lower high here from the internal structure range from here. Create a lower low, which is what we call a shallow corrective wave. This bar is a shallow corrective wave. Then give a little cell. Now give a deep corrective cell. Give a deep corrective cell. Give what? A deep corrective cell. So after the deep corrective cell that happened, now market created another lower low. Market what? Created another lower low. Sorry. Market created a new lower low. After the lower low, market still came back to the SC candle. To the SC candle. SC candle and created a new lower low. So when market gives this complex corrective wave, this complex corrective wave is also what part of what our major characteristics of what major liquidity. It's also what part of it is also part of what that what liquidity hunting. It's also part of that what liquidity hunting. Okay, sorry for that. So as we were saying, so this is also what part of what liquidity hunting. Complex corrective wave is what part of what liquidity hunting. So because what it hunts this shallow pullback here. It hunted this what shallow pullback here. The major so the complex and the shallow corrective wave acted as what the liquidity hunting. So let's see if we see the clear. Okay, here is another clear example of what our clear structure. Now it gave what a lower low, a lower high, gave what a deep retracement. Okay, this created a higher high, so it's overlooked since it created a higher high. We are looking for what a good example of what liquidity hunting. So where is that? Now let's go back to weekly time frame. Okay, so we go back to this weekly time frame structure range. Now on this weekly, okay, On this weekly, you notice one thing here. After market gave a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, it's supposed to give a lower high and give a lower low from this former range here. Now this low failed to create a lower low and created what? A higher high to induce this former range, to take out this former high low. Why? Because it used what? The internal structure range to what? To form it, which is also idea of what? Our weak high or shallow corrective wave or shallow corrective wave. So since it used that shallow corrective wave here, now it formed a new lower low. It formed a new lower low. So price supposed not to now break the high of it, because it's now what? A major characteristic of what? A higher high. It's a major characteristic of what? Our what? Major liquidity. So if market now break the high of it, which is this very high, if market break this very high, since this high broke this low, and it has what? The characteristics of what? Our stop hunting, because this one is not the stop hunting. It stop hunted this first high here, and also this. So it stop hunted two highs here. So it stop hunted this first one and stop hunted this high. So since it created this, it created a new lower low. Since it created this new lower low, you are not expecting market now to break the high of it, to break the what? The high of it, but it broke it. Now it become what? Our major BMS. It become what? Our major BMS. That means on this pair we are bullish. So it created a higher high, a higher low, a higher high again. So that means we are completely bullish on this pair based on this what market did here. Characteristics of what? A major liquidity. Characteristics of what? A major liquidity. So the same process. Now look at this again. You know, market can form from here, form a lower low as what? A shallow corrective wave, then form a deep corrective wave and form a lower low to give us what? A major liquidity. But it came down, didn't form a lower low, form a higher high now. That means it's what? It stop hunted this very high. It stop hunted this very high and created double top. It created double what? Double top at this very high. Little trend line move. Little what? Trend line move. So since it created this trend line move, that is what? A stop hunting plus stop hunt. So it ran into this very candle here, which we don't know yet based on what we have learned so far. We don't know that one yet till what we talk about it. Before what? Giving us a new lower low. Before giving us what? A new lower low. So that is what we call a stop hunting high, or characteristic of what? A major liquidity. So this is part of it. Now it created what? A lower low. It created what? A lower low, and it has what? Grab internal liquidity. This one is internal liquidity. Grab what? One internal liquidity before selling off. So that is how you follow structure carefully. That is how you follow structure completely. So this is all for today class. So for our next class, we'll be talking about uh for our next class. Okay, this month is almost over. So from our next class, we're talking about some characteristics of what? Liquidity, major liquidity, how to know a high or a low that price can what? Easily take. So once we are able to know some highs and lows that price can take, then we'll be talking about what? Point of interest. We'll be talking about what? Point of what? Interest. So that is how we what? That's how we roll. So that is that.